Continuing our look now at the best in children's television. This morning, the new kid, or dinosaur on the block.
So the big purple reptile that kids can't resist.
The big purple dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Teaches about love, and it just kind of like soothes the kids.
And always, there's that signature song.
Yes, this is Purple Tales Podcast, looking a little different, sounding a little different, because I, Nancy J., am in Los Angeles, actually at the airport in the Admirals Club. I have spent the day as a guest of Paramount Television and TV Land and Comedy Central, and actually got to talk to Kevin Costner about Barney the dinosaur. And of course, that is Carey Stenson. And Carey, thank you so much for letting me take a day off and kind of find out what's going on here out in Los Angeles when it comes to Barney.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that, but we miss you so much, Nancy. Wish you were here.
Well, thank you. But I think Bob West has been doing his magic out here.
Yes.
Because everyone knows about Barney. Kevin Costner even told me he'd been hearing some things. Is Barney coming back? Well, those are the kind of questions we'll end up answering later. But Carey, how are things with you? You had a good week?
Oh, everything's been great. The response has been unbelievable. We got a message this week from Rohanna, who was born in England, lives in Turkey now, and is a huge Barney fan. And she was asking about, she wanted to know if some of the Backyard Gang was going to be showing up on the show, and yes, they are. As you know, we've got one coming up, and we've got a couple more coming too. Brian Epps will be with us, and Pia Hamilton. So very excited.
Oh my gosh. It is very, very exciting. And of course, all the comments that we've gotten from last week's episode,
yes.
Bob West, just it's bringing chills, and everyone loves the cleanup song.
Isn't that, I told you, I hear that song all the time. Had no idea it was that popular.
Well, I'll tell you what, you are the one that has made this very, very popular. Barney is alive and well, at least in Los Angeles, and I think I'm going to have to go because I got to catch the plane, but I'm going to bring back these comments that I've gotten from the actors. In fact, Barney has actually been invited to be on a new TV Land show.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to hear about it.
So we need to get you a new agent, Carey. I'm working for you. Okay.
Oh, I
so
love
have
it,
a
Nancy.
good show.
Thank you.
But one question. Is someone sitting in my seat?
I'm sorry to tell you, but we've got some legends here today in the kids entertainment touring, and a rock star legend here.
Well, then you know what? I will gladly give up my seat to those legends. Enjoy the show. I can't wait to see it, and I will see you next week.
Well, your seat's in good hands, and we look forward to getting you back here. Miss you, Nancy.
Bye.
Bye. Well, it's very exciting. We've got Sloan Coleman. Hello. The lady that hired me, that brought me in all these years ago.
Yes.
The senior vice president of live stage tours.
Right.
And also special events.
Right.
And Jake Berry, production rock and roll king.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for having us today.
I'm so glad to have you here. We got to go to dinner last night,
yes.
And just unbelievable, the memories. And I know, as you mentioned, Jake, 5 minutes became 2 hours really quickly.
It did. It came late.
It was amazing.
And I nearly had to join Nancy doing this broadcast from an airport because it only took me 8 hours to get from Phoenix here yesterday, thanks to the wonderful Dallas weather.
Oh, I know. The tornadoes and everything else. We barely got him here.
But he's here.
He's
and
here.
We're so excited he's here. And, he's here in the studio.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, I think this is very cool. And I was listening to the past episodes, and it just brought back a lot of memories. And I think I said, I have to be here. I have to try to force myself onto one of these podcasts. That's what I did.
You absolutely did not need to force yourself on this one. We are so thrilled to have you.
And happy to reunite with Sloan, my live production partner on the Barney tours for a long time and a few years. So it's been fantastic.
Well, having you both here together is just perfect and so exciting. And I want to start out talking about how these two worlds came together. The kids' entertainment, the stage tour.
Right.
And you went rock and roll, Sloan.
I did. So as you know, Carey, we did a lot of events together for many, many years, which we can talk about that another time.
Absolutely.
We're kind of limited today.
Yeah, there's no way you're not coming back already.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we need you back.
If she starts talking, we're going to have to get bed and breakfast here, I think.
Hey, this is it. Podcast. Let's do it.
Yes.
So basically, when it came down to you and David and, of course, Dennis, Kathy, and Cheryl producing the Radio City show.
Yeah, back in 1994.
We had been doing the live events for 4 years now.
Right.
So at the end of that, I went to Dick Leach and I said, you know what? You saw.
And Dick Leach
was it was Cheryl's father-in-law.
That's
that
right.
actually gave her the initial funding to be able to start Barney in the first place.
Right.
So Dick was, a pivotal part of Barney.
Yes.
He was the one who had the vision behind Cheryl, knowing that she could do it. And then between Cheryl and Kathy and Dennis, of course, voila, here we go,
Right.
And from doing PBS shows to doing Radio City, it was just phenomenal.
Right.
So once I said to Dick, we really need to take this show on the road. We need to do big. Because I've been doing the light bulb shows.
Sure.
As you well know.
Yes, I did.
Right?
The light bulb
you
shows.
did one light bulb show, two light bulb shows,
Yes.
three light bulb shows.
Yes.
Which was Barney.
Yes.
Barney and Baby Bop.
Right.
Barney, Baby Bop, and BJ.
Yes.
So Dick said to me, he goes, well, Sloan, what do you need to make this happen? And I said, Dick, I need two things. And he said, what's that? And I said, I need $1 million to build the biggest, best show I can possibly get out there. And two, I need you to find me the best rock and roll tour manager you can, because we're going to go rock and roll style when we take this show on the road.
So you didn't ask for much?
Not much. Those are my only two requests. So he said to me, come, as a couple weeks later, he said, I need you to come to the house. And it was always going to be a big deal when you were going to Dick's house for a meeting, either good or bad. You never knew.
Right.
So it was kind of like, okay. So I walk into the pool house, and there's a bunch of people sitting around the table, and Dennis was there, I remember. And Dick introduced me to Steve Howard, who was with TNA at the time, that was going to be, doing the tour routing and promoting and everything else for us. And then he introduced Jake to me. And I just kind of looked at him like, okay, who's he? Well, he just got off the tour with the Rolling Stones. Right. Oh, well, that will do. So I'm like, yes, only the best for Barney.
Right.
So then you take it to where that was, Jake.
Well, as you say, I was with the Stones, and we just finished. Actually, I came to Dallas via Mumbai, directly.
Now, what tour was that?
Oh, that would have been the Rolling Stones, 90.
That would have been 95.
That would have been like Voodoo Lounge, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or you sure it was 95? I think it's a little later.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's probably No Licks or something like that.
Okay.
But we just had 2 dates there, so we took a small show there. And TNA was TNA Michael Cole was the tour promoter for the Rolling Stones and U2. So he was a pretty sought-after character. Yeah. So Dick,
I guess.
And I just want to say one thing about Dick Leach. Dick Leach is one of those people that if you met, you would never forget for the rest of your life. The only guy that he gave you his word in a handshake, you took it. Just a solid, good person. So he brought in TNA and in turn brought me in. So I don't know if TNA knew what they were getting into. So I think they thought that Barney was some sort of garage operation, mom and pop thing from Dallas that needed to grow, and had no idea the popularity of the TV show, and of course it was unaware of the 1, 2, 3 light bulb shows, and what in malls drawing thousands of people.
Right. Now, did you know Barney?
I'd
at
seen it
that
on
time?
TV, but I'd had no kids, so
Oh, right.
there was no reason for me to listen to "I Love You," to be perfectly honest. But I grew to like it, by the way, So, and they pitched a plan, and we sort of all left, and I went out with the TNA people, and they, for some reason, weren't that interested. And I think the next day or something, called up Dick and said, "I'm sorry, but we're not interested," because I think they thought they wanted to be a 1 or 2 truck tour maximum.
Okay.
And I don't think the producer sat next to me had any intentions of going small. So they will go, "This will never work." So they called up Dick, and then Dick got a hold of me, and he goes, I still want you to do it. And Sloan and I hit it off from pretty much the first conversation. We were on the same wavelength. I was totally overwhelmed by her enthusiasm for this purple dinosaur,
Yes.
which was, as you know, Carey, was unsurpassed by anybody else.
Yes.
So Dick said, "Jake, I want you to book the tour." I was not ready to book the tour. No way could I book the tour, but I really wanted to be involved. So Sloan and I talked, and then Sloan went out and found this gentleman called Frank Roach at
Yes,
Independent.
I remember Frank.
Frank Roach.
Absolutely.
And, and Frank Roach then he booked all the shows, and I put all the production together, and Sloan with her team of people auditioned people and put the cast together, and it was like this giant jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
That kept, and it wasn't a year in the planning. Like Sloan, it had to be done then and there, right away. So I think it was like a whopping, maybe it was like 9 months from the time we're going to go and do it till the time we went on sale, to the time we sold it.
Wow.
And then
Plenty of time.
Plenty of
Jake.
time. Yeah,
Come on.
we made it with at least 2 days to spare, as you know, Carey, rehearsal. And so, and then the other part is that Sloan had to convince Cheryl and all the TV folks, I called them, because they thought that we were going into the Wild West a little bit.
Right.
And they were, and rightly so, very protected of the property and how it had to portray. And we're a little nervous that we were going to take this TV show, which Cheryl really wanted in a theater after the Radio City experience.
Right.
But we were going to go down and cut down arenas. So we were going to present a theatrical presentation in an arena because we had to play. The demand was huge, so we had to stay somewhere for a week, and we couldn't get theaters, and probably the theaters were too small to fit Sloan's production in, or her vision that day. So
that'd be big.
So Frank booked a bunch of arenas, and if you're familiar arenas, 20,000, 10,000, whatever, we cut them in half or sometimes to a third, and we played to half houses, and we didn't play to the opera bowls. We just catered for that range of audience, the 2 to 5, which worked out great.
So how many were we talking?
4,000 or 5,000
per show.
Yeah.
That's at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it grew.
And think
to
about
where
that.
we would
for
have to go up.
5,000, for 7 shows.
Oh, absolutely.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, we would go in and you had to be careful. You couldn't put like 24 rows of seats on the floor, because if you bought the 24th row and you were 2 years old, you weren't going to see Barney.
Right.
And that's the whole point.
Right.
So we limited to how many rows we could sell on the floor. And we thought 12, and as a demand, we go, well, we can't go to 20, so we pushed it to 16. And in those days we had a thrust and we had side seats, and we sold the sides, and we went up like to the suite level.
Right.
And then when demand went, we would go into the top row, but we were the top tier on it, but we were not quite prepared for that. And some days, we used to have to go and bring in extra sound to cover it. And the popularity was immense. So,
and that's why I want to have you all on
to
people that are listening to this show and watching this show have no idea how big these productions were.
Right.
And absolutely no clue how big this tour show production was.
The biggest rival to Barney was Sesame Street.
Sure.
Correct.
That was that was like Dallas versus Houston.
Absolutely.
That was the competitor.
Right.
And Sloan had to be bigger than Sesame Street.
Of
there was
course.
no way she was going to be even level with them.
Yes.
It had to be bigger. So she
Because I'd
found
known Sloan for a long time at that point. I already knew.
yeah, well,
Okay.
before
Hey,
before
you know
after
what?
the perm.
Barney had set a standard at radio, y'all. Barney had set a standard at Radio City Music Hall,
Yes.
and that is what everybody was asking
No,
for.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, really, it was Cheryl and Dennis and Kathy that had built that, with
Right.
Steve White writing it, Victor DiNapoli doing all the sets for it.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, it's got to be as big or bigger when we take this on the road. That's why I
Right.
said to Dick, we've got to do this rock and roll
Sure.
style touring
We
because
need to,
we can't do it
We need
without.
to make a
Right.
statement. You know, Sloan needed to make. She needed to make Barney to be a statement.
Yes.
If you were touring this larger than life creature, animal,
Yeah,
dinosaur,
the big purple dinosaur, yep.
you had to make it big in life. Don't forget, as you played it,
Right.
You know, it's taller than the average guy. So
Absolutely.
when you built sets, you had to have exaggerated stairs,
Yes.
otherwise you fall flat on your face.
Right.
So all these things, and that became bigger and bigger. So after Radio City, the only two things that the people wanted from TV World and Cheryl Nat is they wanted Victor to design the show.
Right.
And we couldn't think of it. Radio City looked fantastic.
Right.
And so there was no
Yes.
difference. They wanted Steve White to write the script.
Yes.
So
we've
that was good.
we've had Steve on the show.
Yes, he was
Hilarious, Steve
fabulous.
White.
Yes.
You know, so we started with them, and then our job was to put it all together. And we started to put a budget together. Not that it meant very much back then, but
Right.
you know, we started off. We thought, well, you know, if Sesame Street's 2 trucks, we need to be 4.
Right.
So we finished up in 6. and
Well,
we
it looked good, didn't it?
It looked fantastic.
Well, and that's been one of my favorite things talking about. We were talking about it and laughing last night. That the show originally was put together was some of these sets were put together to stay and not to travel.
Well, yes. Okay, so let me explain
Yes,
that a little
yes,
bit.
because I know
before-
this is
Oh yeah, this was
an
crazy.
amusing story here.
So Victor DiNapoli, like I
amusing
said.
story now. It wasn't.
Oh yeah, it wasn't at the time.
Wasn't at
no.
the time.
My craziest memory
Yes.
of building that first
Yes.
tour was, you know, Victor and all the sets and everything. We'd been through everything.
Right.
Costumes, casting, props, lighting, rigging, sound. I mean, everything in the world. And so we all arrive in Fort Worth
Right.
at the Stockyard Coliseum.
Yes, and as Joe
which-
Phillips, he was here and talked
Okay,
about
so-
all the flies. and-
Yes, because all the animals had just moved out the day before we moved in.
I think
So-
we had to hold the load in for an hour while they finished taking the last of the dirt out. Or
I
something.
mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what have we done? But we knew that it had to be closed and we had to do it. And everybody
Right.
was on board.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, Jake, all the sets are coming. They're all coming because they were all being built in New York.
And Jake, you brought out, because this is such an interesting part too, all the crew was roadies from all these rock tours.
Oh.
I mean, had any of them done kids shows before?
Definitely not, unless you cast the Rolling Stones as a kid show, you know. But it was a great. It was like it was a bit like, you know, one of them. What's that Jack Nicholson movie where he goes up and saves the world, things like that. The movie with all the old astronauts, they go up because they're the only people who can do it. So this bunch of older people come in. I mean, young people, but had been in the business for a few years.
Right.
Yeah, so he's got all his roadies
But before we
there.
get to that, we got to go back to the stockyards.
Okay.
So I'd met with this guy building the set that
my
Victor
gosh.
got.
Right.
And I said, whatever we do with touring, we really want it to try to keep it within framework. You know, we normally work on an 8 feet by 8 feet modular pack.
Okay.
And come in, it must be in carts with wheels so we can fork it out of trucks and wheel it across the stage.
Right.
So we opened the doors and we took out the base of the treehouse. And, you know, so I said, don't worry, guys, it's only like 8 or 10 feet long, it'll be fine. It's made of solid steel. There's more steel in there than there's the QE2. And
Obviously theater built and not road travel
Right.
because
built.
we were used to
I
building
didn't
everything
know.
Right.
out of aluminum.
Right.
So the 8 feet came out, the 10 feet, the 12. It was like when he's expanding boxes, it kept growing bigger and bigger. And 18 feet came out and nobody could handle it, it was so heavy. And I kind of looked, I don't know if Sloan was there, but I kind of looked around looking for, you know, in words that you can't say, I know, what have you done to us?
I know. So I remember standing up top,
Right.
looking down at all the pieces
Yeah.
on the floor going, wow, this is really big. This looks great. I am so excited about this. Here comes Jake with this look of, what have you done to us? And I'm like, what's the matter? It looks wonderful. It's solid steel. I went, oh no. Oh, how are we going to move that?
And then she said, what are we going to do with it? So the first thing I do, I'm going to hire a welder with a torch and we're going to kind of cut it in little pieces so we can handle it. And that cost us the first day because we torched it and scaled it down a little bit to build it. Look, it looked beautiful.
Right.
I mean, we just, on Barney on the stage set, when you saw Barney actually play to the first only 20 feet of the stage.
Right.
Behind the curtains, because we had multiple scene changes to go into scenes, and behind the curtain of the stage was another 60 foot where we could store all the stuff. We had to get this treehouse. I think the base was something like 24 foot square, and it was like 24, and it was so heavy, it took like 10 people to push it. So.
And this was a treehouse that Barney could go up in.
Up and down. Oh, everybody.
Everybody
could
I climbed up it every night.
Yes, you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was Barney's big surprise that we're talking about.
Correct.
The first one.
The first one.
National global stage
and the greatest thing about rehearsing in the cow barn in Fort Worth is
cow barn.
whatever it was, the rodeo stockyard or something.
Yes.
We never got any of the executives out there because it was too dirty for them to come out until the dress rehearsal, which was quite good, and we went along on our own way. But we
they
got
just
it
kept
up there.
asking back at corporate,
How's it going?
How's it going?
Fantastic.
Oh, it's great. I can't wait for you to get here. Hang up the phone. Jake, what are we going to do?
We were scrambling, we were behind schedule, and like you say, opening night is opening night. You can't edit it like you can in TV or podcast.
Yes.
You once you're going, you're gone. Whether you're ready or not, you're doing it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's embarrassing. It's not cost effective to cancel a show and reschedule. So.
Yeah.
And we'd already planned.
Yeah.
We planned to be in I think we're opening in St. Louis. We planned to be in there a couple of days early to do the final rehearsals. But
yeah,
it was and going back when Victor DiNapoli, the set designer, and I think Victor, if he was here, and he would admit as well, Victor and I, to start with, did not have a great relationship.
No.
I mean, we came from two totally different worlds. I was used to things happening in a faster way and a more efficient way. Victor, who did great set designs, by the way, and did some of the greatest backdrops I'd ever seen, even in rock and roll, with his painters, came from a totally different world. And we were on a train going to Lidditz from New York because I wanted to use a company called Tate, who did all the rock and roll set designs. Victor wanted a scenic shop in New York, and you can understand that. You go to the people you know. You go to the people you think can deliver.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and all the first hour of the train ride, Sloan and Victor are the seat in front of us. Okay. I'm sitting in the next seat behind with me and the production coordinator. Just happened to be my wife, who's now my ex-wife. We were sitting down there, and all he's doing is, I think slagging off is the right word, where we're going. And by about the 2 hour journey mark, after listening, I'd had enough. So I jumped up over the back of the seat, and I think Laurie pulled me back and Sloan pushed me back. But I was ready to. I was ready
he
to
was
get.
Not happy.
I was ready to get into Victor's face, but. Yeah. So we got over that hurdle, and on all that by the end of that tour and by other tours, we learned really well to coexist together and knowing what our limitations were and understanding each other's needs. And he learned, and I learned how to work together. And I totally respect him at the end, because whatever he said, he built great sets. He did great sets for Barney. And because he had a lot of Sesame Street experience, he had a great knowledge for color and what the kids liked. So
right.
He was the set
designer for Sesame Street.
It was the start of it was the start of the two worlds colliding. There's the theater world here, and there's all us people from the rock and roll. And to start with, it was just like that, and we had to learn.
And I'm just like this. Okay, kids, let's all play in the same sandbox.
I think
we can do this.
Her title should be an executive producer and referee. I think.
I got this.
Well, and that's something we learned. That's a theme throughout the whole tour,
right?
Because same when it came to crew and the actors, because we were completely different worlds. I think, the only one that had been with Barney.
Correct.
Yeah, I was the only actor that had been with. I've been with Sloan for years, but other than that, everyone was new. And David Voss.
And that was
David
the other
Voss.
one, and the rest were all new.
Yeah, we were all. Everyone else was new.
Right.
And I remember so vividly being in the airport, going to St. Louis, and the crew coming in, and you could just see it on their faces. Loadout after loadout, and it was like, don't talk to them. You could just tell it was best to leave them alone. And if you explain why it took so long to,
I think we'll put it down to the steel treehouse. And also, it's a learning curve. Like, for instance, the cast had Fort Worth, I think we were there for 10 days.
Right.
And they had 7 of those days they could get orientated and rehearse their show. We set the show up, and we were still setting it up, like, because pieces were late, 2 and 3 days into it. So we never got into the rhythm. So our first dress rehearsal was loading it out of Fort Worth. And,
Right.
Our object was, if you're dealing with local stagehands, you want to be 4 hours, otherwise you're paying a premium.
right.
So
We paid a pretty premium
Yes, we did.
that night, didn't we?
I think if you took 4 hours and doubled it, you might get pretty close to where we were. So instead of getting back, and we all got I think we were all always on 6 a.m. flights because they were the cheapest back in those days.
Right.
So
But
No
once you got
sleep.
the tour rolling, how long would it take you?
3
to do it?
hours.
Yeah, so 3 hours.
Oh, they would try and
Yeah, but
beat their record every time.
Right.
2 hours and 57 minutes. All right, this
there's
is
somebody
great.
out there had a stopwatch now, but we only had the fastest loadout time when we replaced the steel treehouse with the aluminum one that I always wanted, and all of a sudden everybody
Right.
goes. There's a sigh of relief. There's,
So how long was the steel one out before?
1 year, the first year.
1 full year.
Yeah,
I couldn't go back and ask for more money.
Right.
Because we built it out of steel.
Right.
I mean, Jake, come on now. I'm like, give me a year, then I can come back.
And like everything, things are only hard for the first 3 or 4 weeks. And don't forget, if you were doing a rock show, what I was used to, 3 or 4 weeks would have been, 10 load-ins, 10 load-outs.
Right.
Right.
3 weeks of Barney was 3 ins and 3 outs.
Right.
Because, as you know, our schedule was we'd finish in a city on Saturday, and we'd travel on Monday. We would load the show in Tuesday, and then be ready for rehearsals with the cast on stage Wednesday morning.
Yep.
And I think Miss Penny was a stickler. It was 10 o'clock.
Yep.
You had
Yeah.
It was 10 o'clock, and then you rehearsed, and you did one run through. We could only do so many run throughs because the time you guys could be in the costume,
Right.
and also because we were breaking new grounds, traveling kids,
Yes.
characters. So we could only, with the child labor laws, only work them so
Right.
hard.
Yes.
We had a lot
So
of things
so
that we
Wednesday
had
was
to
Wednesday was
keep track
practice,
of.
and then Wednesday was every week we had a premiere. Every week it was opening night in a city, and you opened on Wednesday, and everybody from the press was there, so it had to be right.
Yes.
And then we play one show on Wednesday, one on Thursday, one on Friday, and then we did three shows Saturday. Which
Yep.
by the end of it, nobody ever went out because they go to bed at 7 o'clock.
Those were
when the
tough
show-
days,
And then
Saturdays.
3 shows Saturday, that's what it became.
Yep.
And then we played 2 on Sunday, and we loaded out and travel on Monday.
Yes.
And that's what we did. And we would do that for, I think, the average was 46 weeks a year.
Yes.
Right.
And I think, one of the fun
Right.
things is that we started out when we talk about airplanes and the airports, but it's a great story how we got to,
this
to
is
tour
good.
buses.
Okay,
Josh talked
so-
a little bit about that.
Oh, did he talk about the tour buses? Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure with the rock and roll
Yes.
is that I knew how demanding the show was going to be with you guys being in costumes, everybody. I mean, the whole thing. The other children's entertainment shows had all done like Greyhound buses.
Right.
And they would just get them into their buses and go,
Sure.
right?
Right.
And I said to Jake, okay, one of the things I'm going to make sure that I do is everybody gets their own hotel room because you needed the rest. You needed the downtime.
Well, you need to get away from some of the people,
and you have
too.
to get away, right? And then
Because you're together all
Yeah, them
the,
two
all the time.
Barneys sharing a room would be a huge bed.
yeah, right. So I said to Jake, okay, what are these bus things that you guys use in rock and roll? That's how much I knew, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
Bus things
much.
being the appropriate word, I think.
Yes.
What are these bus things? So go ahead and tell them it was a big surprise in
Well,
St.
I-
Louis.
But it was originally, the cast was not excited about
no,
this.
they were not happy that we were not
well, I-
flying them everywhere.
Because they thought it was like the
Greyhound
old
buses.
school,
Yeah, I
bus
mean, I
and
think
truck.
what happened is we set ourselves a limit of what you could travel on a day bus.
Right.
I think we always thought
Yes.
that you could travel 300 miles in the same amount of hours as it took to check into an airport especially if it was a connection to get to an out of the way city.
Right.
So we used to travel by bus, and then tickets started to get a little expensive, and somebody goes, and the crew were always badgering me because we were used to buses. We
Right.
need a bus. So I went to Sloan and I said, the crew would like a bus. And we'll just forgo the Sunday night hotel and help pay for it. And if need be, we'll forgo the Monday night hotel. We'll sleep on the bus. And everybody was quite, because the buses were pretty luxurious.
Yeah, the roadies were very excited. The cast
so
not so much.
that was so. And then we got the bus out, and then Sloan goes, we should do it. And I think the cast didn't like. Said, "Oh, the crew are getting buses. Good luck. We're flying." And then when we got the bus and one of them walked on, they go, "Holy hell, what's this? Why can't we have one?" Like so, they go to Sloan. They go, "We want a bus." And then they got on a bus, and we had buses
That's
for a little
funny.
while. And we didn't have it all the time, only where it made sense, financial sense, and also where distances. But we used to come in, and the cast used to bring their bags in because you couldn't travel, because
Right.
they're actors. They got 20 suitcases each. They're all rock stars, And so we'd put the bags in the truck,
Well,
and you would carry.
You two made us feel like rock stars. Is what happened there.
No,
Well,
so- and-
absolutely. We had to treat you right. You were the lead.
Yeah, it was
It was-
unbelievable.
Yeah, you were paying my mortgage. Or helping.
There you go.
Yeah, so we got buses out for a bit, and I think Sloan was always really very cool about that. Is it wanted to be one big happy family, and if
Right.
you're happy, then you produce. If you're
That's
happy
right.
with your environment, then it leads for a better cohesion, whether you're acting or whether you're setting the stage up. And then if you're happy, then people get along.
Right.
And Carey, when we started, it was, there's these people coming from left wing and these people
Yes.
right wing.
Yes.
And we all never met in the middle. There was always something like this. And I think it was probably not only the buses, but it was one of the Sloan Coleman famous "Let's get together after the show" parties.
Yes.
Yeah, and
We had a lot of those.
Yeah, there was a few of them. We only had tour parties and day ending in a Y.
Well, I wanted to keep everybody happy.
If Sloan came out, the first job was she would call up the production coordinator. You gotta find me a place to have a party. So Friday nights actually it was always Thursday night because
Thursday
we
night,
couldn't
that's
do it
right.
Friday because everybody used to have to be up at 8. If you were Friday, the cast didn't have to be until 4 or 5. So, and the
That's
crew not
right.
until 2. So it was a Thursday
Oh
night.
yeah, everyone was excited when Sloan was coming in.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a party
I was
tonight.
excited.
Yeah.
Sloan's coming.
Sloan's coming.
So
Well, because it was having to keep everybody together. I
Yeah.
was a big,
Well, absolutely.
cheerleader on that.
Absolutely, you were. And what I try to explain to people is that we didn't have social media.
No.
We didn't have the life that we have these
Carey,
days.
I was looking through this tour
Yes.
book. Look, you see?
Yes.
And in it, it's got Sloan's pager. There you go.
pager.
A
Yeah.
pager.
Yeah.
We're going way back.
So
now.
when you were on the road, you were gone. Like, I might talk to my parents every once in a while
Yeah.
and my friend, but it's a different world. You weren't connected.
Right.
So we were really out there every night together. I mean, it was just
Oh,
a
yeah.
big family traveling together every night. And we would be out there for 2, 3, 4 months before we had a break.
Absolutely.
12,
Right,
16
right.
weeks at a time,
Yeah.
16
It was
cities,
long,
week
it was
off and go,
long.
you
Yeah.
know?
But let's also talk about, Jake, how we started incorporating the crew into the show.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they were getting a little jealous of
Right.
the
Well,
cast.
you know,
And-
we all came
Yeah.
into it looking, the class of 95, 96, when that tour happened,
Yes.
was a fantastic class. I managed, I don't know how, to persuade and assemble a really good group of talented people from the touring field. Like there was myself,
Yes.
and I'd been out with, or
Yeah,
from
and
there until
I know we've got some pictures here. We should show
Yeah.
a few that of the tours that Jake's worked on here. Well, there's
Well,
ours.
see, that's
There's-
that's
No,
the
there's
big surprise.
the
And
big
only
surprise
thing,
show.
the only thing wrong with this, I was the only one missing out of here.
He had to leave.
Sloan deliberately took this after the day I left.
Yeah,
And look
that's
at
not
there's
true.
Sloan next to Barney.
That's not true. But that was so much fun looking
Yeah,
at
I think
looking
that's-
back
that's
on
the
all of
aluminum
those.
tree
There's
house, not the
Dick
steel.
Leach
Dick Leach right next
right
to
there,
Sloan.
right next to me.
Yeah, great
there he
guy.
is. Yeah.
And there's that big steel tree.
There's
Yeah.
that. Hey, there was no worrying about that coming down.
I think that's the aluminum one. Otherwise,
No, that was Barney. That was in Fort Worth. That was it. Our very first show.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it looks
Looked
spectacular,
great.
didn't it?
Yeah. That was all fun. So you look at those. But yeah, so it was like, okay, the crew was getting a little jealous. Okay,
I don't know. So we had a party. So,
Right.
Sloan goes, okay, you got to make sure. We had the start of the show was a small plush in the center of the stage.
Right.
Barney was a small plush, and the kids had dreams, and the music would whirl. And we had
Based off the TV show.
Yeah,
Correct.
so we had to make Barney
Absolutely.
appear. So
Yes.
so we had to get smoke. Smoke and
Oh, yeah,
mirrors.
smoke and mirrors.
And so I had this
I was
guy
all
called
excited.
I had this guy called Mo Hale. It was that, and Mo
I
became,
remember Mo very well.
Well, Mo became he was the chief smoke operator, and so and if Sloan was there, and we didn't get enough. I can see him. More smoke. So,
Absolutely.
So we get back next time, more smoke. So Mo has since gone on to be. He was out with Dave Matthews forever, a lead carp. He's
Right.
out with Elton right now as a
Oh.
lead carp. So he's done pretty well in the business.
Yes.
And things like that. And then so he was like in charge of all the little trinkets on the props, and also he was also the driver of the Barney mobile.
Yes.
So and then
And
when,
talk about the mobile.
Sloan go, we need a Barney mobile. We had to have a Barney mobile. So we went to this shop in Los Angeles, a guy named David Mendoza, and we did all the drawings, and this guy built the Barney mobile, which is based on a golf cart chassis. So this thing showed up, and it was driven like a golf cart, and so you had somebody
Down below.
underneath,
Right.
Underneath, so you couldn't see 'em.
laying down a bit, and,
Right.
and their vision was through the headlight,
Yeah.
or the grill, I think. by the way.
Right.
Yeah, and then so Mo got the job of being smoke operator and used to jump into the car, and then probably have to place the book of nursery rhymes for Mother Goose,
Right.
things like that.
Well,
which-
and then all three dinosaurs were in that car
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
dancing, so the whole thing is shaking.
It's shaking and moving and grooving and,
if you
Mo's
ma-
down there
and-
like,
and if you
okay.
there's
No, that's the bus.
That's the bus.
Oh, that was the bus. That was on the other tour. Same thing, same type of
Same
deal,
principle,
though,
yeah.
is
Right.
what we did.
Well, once
right.
you've done a car, you got to do a
Yeah,
bus.
I mean, I always had to
Sloan
have
could not go
something.
smaller.
No.
So as you remember, you were dancing in a car,
Right.
and Mo was driving it, and then Barry Pearl, who played Professor Tinkerpell,
Yes.
he would lean over, and Mo would always give him something different. Like, we'd give him a note, and it's something like, your hair's out of place, or just a note, and it would always make him laugh. And I think he always used to kick your feet or something like that, or used to kick him. So all
Right.
the kind of good humor things. So
Absolutely.
it got fun, and you would. I mean, dare I say it, that we used to stand on the side of the stage when Barry was performing and flick coins at him.
Little
And
pennies.
the first one to hit him got a free drink or something like that.
Well, you have to explain about Barry that he was.
Oh,
he
my
was-
goodness, yes,
So I just finish off
absolutely.
about the
Sorry.
Of course
Yeah.
you
Sorry,
may.
absolutely.
That's
Of
okay.
course.
And then we get on to Barry, Sloan's first rock star. So Mo was there, and then my production. I was a production director. I hired a production manager. It was Ian Kinnersley. Ian, since then, has gone on to do the Eagles, Van Halen, Kanye West, Travis
Wow.
Scott,
Wow.
and a lot of other acts. So he was the first production manager. The production coordinator, my wife then was the production coordinator. And I don't think that Barney was the cause of the divorce, but it certainly had a lot to do with it. Not the creature, the touring environment. So we had that, and then our head rigger was a guy called Rodney Johnson.
Remember Rodney well?
Rodney was, a great guy, and Rodney since then has rigged a lot of, famous shows. And now he's a production manager in his own right, and he's done acts like the Foo Fighters, and is out with the band 21 Pilots right
Wow.
now.
Oh, wow.
So he's doing really well.
And then Seth.
Seth.
Well, Seth.
Oh, let's not forget Seth's role.
Seth Goldstein, who works with me on the Electronic Daisy Carnival shows that I do.
Okay.
And he was also the production manager for Sting.
Wow.
And does all the Jingle Ball tours and like Made in America in Philadelphia and shows like that. So Seth came out, and he was a carpenter. So one day we had the Humpty Dumpty scene, so
Yes.
we needed somebody to handle Humpty Dumpty. So I don't know whether he was drunk or whatever it was, but he volunteered, or Seth goes,
great.
"You're Humpty Dumpty."
You would be a great Humpty
So
Dumpty.
Seth became Humpty Dumpty.
And he took it very seriously.
He did-
I mean, he would do the whole thing to make sure it was all with his
He would get
thoughts.
notes from Miss Penny or
Miss
anybody.
Penny.
Your bum's wiggling in the wrong place and your hands aren't moving correctly. And he would take take notice of that, but he, he really got off on being Humpty Dumpty. In actual fact, I spoke to him yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And I said I was going down to do this, and
Yes.
Sloan, he goes, say hi from Humpty to Sloan for me, So that and
Seth will always be my Humpty.
And then I had like a lady called Florrie Turner.
Yeah.
Florrie
I
is
remember
now
Florrie.
just a carpenter for Paul McCartney, and she's
Oh,
had
wow.
my carpenter on U2.
Oh, wow.
And we're friends.
of course-
Mimi Sullivan.
I love Mimi.
Oh my gosh!
Mimi
they're all doing
was
big
one of the
things.
wranglers.
She was.
She's a production coordinator who worked with me on U2, on Madonna.
Yes.
And she also now is out with John Mayer. So
That's awesome.
it was a fantastic
you
breeding
gotta
ground.
talk about H.
Oh, Big Harold.
Big Harold.
We love Harold.
Well,
Yes.
Harold came on as a carpenter,
Carpenter
pretty
to
lowly
start.
carpenter, and then he grew up through the ranks and then became the production director for Barney, the production manager.
Yes.
And when Barney finished, he's done people like Kelly Clarkson, Maroon 5, and Mary J. Blige. So all these people, and we all came from backgrounds like
Right.
Seth came from the Stones, me, Florrie came from the Stones, so did Rodney and Ian Kinnersley. They all came from the Rolling Stones. We
Right.
went from Rolling Stones to Barney.
To Barney.
I was so excited.
And
I was
like I
like,
said-
Dick, you did it. I mean, look at him up there.
That's me, and celebrating my 50th birthday.
Aw. There they are.
And in case anybody doesn't know, it's Keith Richards on the left and Ronnie Wood on the
Yes,
right.
and for everyone on YouTube, you're seeing this. And if you're listening to this, check out YouTube. There's some
Absolutely.
amazing pictures going
Great
on here.
photos of Jeff.
And then you too now.
Yeah, you
Currently-
too, yeah.
Currently, you're out there
Since
with YouTube.
2002, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, you've
Yeah.
been doing them a long time. Yeah.
It's not a full-time, I don't do it full-time. I spread myself through, like in the 80s, I was doing heavy metal.
Right.
I was like
Aren't you Metallica?
Metallica,
And
AC/DC,
yeah.
Motley Crue,
Yeah.
bands like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the UK, and in the 90s it was the Rolling Stones. I did a Cher, Tina Turner, and then in about 2002 U2, and then Madonna, and I've just managed to do other bands. Of course, I did a lot of work with AC/DC. That's where I learned. Those guys gave me my big break in 1979. Always be grateful for them.
Well, for us, it was the most incredible experience because we got to see some of these bands.
Yes.
Jake took us.
I scrounged tickets for these guys, but they had
You
to do it.
did.
It had to be a good performance.
Yes.
If they perform like
No.
garbage, I would say. Of course, the ultimate word comes, but you can't say that.
Right.
Then you didn't go. But I remember going up to the tour director of the Stones in East Rutherford or someone like goes, I need a favor. I got my Barney shows in town. I need some tickets. How many do you want? He goes, well, do you think 42 is too many?
Because we had a casting crew of 50.
Yeah. So
That
and I
was
was allowing
our
for some
casting
people
crew.
not to be there, but even the little people came. I don't think
Yes.
they saw very much standing up, but they came.
Well, it was incredible because I remember in Memphis, we got off stage and you're standing there with a stack of tickets, just handing them out. Because
Yeah.
Hootie and the Blowfish
Hootie
were
and the
playing across
Blowfish
the
was
street.
there, yeah.
Yeah, get out of your costume and get down there, otherwise you'll miss the opening. Because
You'll miss the
of course,
show.
Yes.
we were over and done by 8:30.
Right.
Because all good kids have to be in bed.
Right.
So it was pretty
And one of
bad.
my-
for-
Hurry up.
Absolute favorites, a surprise. We're all in the bunks and the bus, and the pulls over, and the crew goes, get up, get your clothes on. And there's Jake standing there backstage of Tina Turner, and just as a surprise, we all got to go see Tina Turner. Who gets to do that?
I'm telling you, Jake was like
Yeah.
the dad that everybody wanted out
Yeah.
on tour. I was like the mom
You
that
were the mom,
everybody
well, you-
wanted out on tour. So we would go back and forth.
It was an
and it was
amazing,
great.
amazing experience for all of us. I mean,
Yeah,
it was.
It really was.
It was.
Truly was.
Is like Broadway meets rock and roll.
Yeah.
I think I termed the phrase broad rock.
Broad rock.
Broad rock, and it worked. But we worked hard on it. We worked
we
on
did.
it. And,
was hard.
But in the end, it was a fantastic family, a fantastic tour, and with a fantastic bunch of characters, and it always helps when it's successful.
Well,
Yeah, it was.
Josh talked about when he was here, the crew being a little surprised at how loud the roar would be when Barney would
Oh, it was insane.
hit the stage.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think
The
I think
decibel-
when you're asking that question, I'm going like this, and it's right. You would only go, and then you realize that once you did a couple of shows, as a crew member and as a touring production person, you realize when you're on something special. You can feel it's something special. And I think 2 weeks into that tour, when everybody started to feel like it wasn't like I'm a truck driver. I got to drive a truck around with a Barney logo on the side,
Right.
and I don't want to do this. And in the end, we'd go around with on their days off because we put decals on all the truck advertising the
Wrapped
show.
them all.
Sure.
And they would
Sure.
drive around the city, go to truck stops and shopping malls, blowing their horn for attention, and just
was
driving
great.
round
Yeah.
and round. Everybody got in it. It was a unique experience. Something I don't know whether the likes of us will ever experience again.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
it was
know.
incredible. It was something
was-
so good. But that's how you could do the marketing. I remember Jake was up in my office when we were first talking about how do we market the show? Because,
Right.
you know,
Well, one of
not
the
only,
ways.
Yeah.
huh?
One of the ways we could.
Well, one of the ways, right. So not only, you know, were we responsible for building the show
Sure.
and everything, but it was also marketing, PR.
Right.
You didn't have the social media, so
Right,
with your
you did
PR
not.
was radio, television,
Yes.
print, all of the above. So I said, Jake, what can we do? You know, what have you guys done in the past
Right.
with something? And go ahead and tell them how we're standing at the window.
So she said, "What can we do? How can we make it aware?" So I stood at Sloan at an. I think no, I don't know if it was her office. It was, if you remember the first original Lions group. It was
Sure.
the office, and it had the kids' room.
Yeah.
It had the room,
Yep.
the playroom. It was the Barney playroom.
Oh, that's
Yes.
right.
It was the Barney
That's right.
playroom
You're
where
right.
everything
You're right.
in there was Barney, and you had a conference table, and that's where you had all your script meetings. That's where you had all your
Yes.
meetings, because everybody wanted you to feel the vibe.
Because that was
Correct.
in Richardson, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah, in
was-
Richardson, yeah.
Yes.
So I looked out the window, and about 3 minutes later, I go, 360. And she goes, "What's that?" I said, "That's a number of semis that have passed the building."
Because we're right on Central Expressway.
So if we put a decal on the side of the truck, if you're at 360 and the car's passing it, you're going to get 1,000 people every 5 minutes on a busy road looking at that. And then we went one step further, because there was no, you have Ticketmaster.com.
Right.
So there was a 1-800 number. So get your
Yeah.
tickets, Barney tickets at
Right.
1-800.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people would say, "How do you know about it?" Well, I read it on the truck.
Yeah.
So-
You would see that all the
Yeah.
time. We heard about that all the time.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and then we got to go touring, and then
Right.
then we met up with a whole bunch of characters, and Barry Pearl,
Oh my gosh, Barry
Oh,
Pearl.
Mr. Pearl.
Professor
Yes.
Tinkerpot.
Oh, I
Yes.
love him.
Yes.
What
I
fun
like
was
it
that?
very
Who
much.
he had been in the NBC special,
Absolutely.
Imagination Island.
That's right.
And he was also in the movie Grease. He
Yes,
was one of
he
the
was.
Thunderbirds, one of the
Duty,
T-Birds.
wasn't he?
Duty.
Yep.
There- yeah.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
And we're very excited he's going to be here
Oh,
on Purple
fun.
Tails. soon.
Is he coming?
He will be
I bet
here.
he'll be very
Oh,
colorful.
my gosh,
He
that will
will-
be fantastic.
He will be
yeah.
here.
Yeah. Love him.
But he was completely different from all of us because he was a LA. He was a SAG actor.
Oh, he was a true actor.
Yeah, he
and I'm
was.
like, okay, how do we deal with this? You know, I mean, Carey's been my actor, and I hired him from Chili's.
Right,
So
yeah.
now I've
True
got
story.
Yeah, true story. So now I've got a true actor on my hands,
Right.
Mr. Barry Pearl.
Yes.
And you know,
And he was the only one who had a proactive agent.
correct.
Yeah.
But he was the perfect person to play Professor Tinkerpot. I mean, he had
was.
to. He was Professor Tinkerpot.
Yep.
You could not substitute that. So when he came on, you know, at first I think he was a little surprised at how big the show was.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll never forget that because he thought it was going to be on a much smaller scale, right?
Right.
And so I said, "Well, do you approve?" You know, something like that to him. And he said,
Love that.
This will do. Yes, this is great. And then it was everybody
I know
had
he
fun.
was another one about that bus. He wasn't so sure about
Oh,
that.
he wasn't sure about the buses
yeah,
either.
he wanted to. He wanted
You
to
know,
try-
He wanted to
Barry
fly
was,
everywhere.
He was, you know, he was an older statesman to that crew.
Yeah,
you know?
he was.
He could never have been the father of crew, but
No.
he was the elder statesman. Like I say, he
Correct.
was the real actor.
Yeah.
And, you know, real actors don't travel on buses.
Right. So
But, you
I
know-
can't wait to hear his side of the
Oh.
story of that. But we loved Barry. Oh my gosh, he was.
He was a
perfect.
great
I mean,
character.
inside and out.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a
he's-
character outside of his character because he's so much fun.
You know,
Yes.
he was such a character. Even when he was moaning, he was funny.
Everybody
you know?
laughed.
Well, it's either that or we didn't take
He
any
could
notice. And I
complain
can't
and we
remember
all
what it was.
laughed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good.
You know, and one show in London, you know, we always tried to make the cast laugh, as you know.
Yeah.
The production crew, we'd be on the side of the stage, as I say. I think David Voss, who was the lead dancer, we would try to hit him with pennies. I mean, just
Right.
flip, nothing, but it would just the spirit. So one you know, and I talked about Mo making Barry Pearl laugh when he went into and Mr. Tinkerbot came to the car and all you guys laughed.
Yeah.
So we decided, how can we get him one night? And I'm not averse to a little bit of fun, you know.
I've learned that over the
big
years,
kid.
Jake.
He's the big kid.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times.
So I dressed up in costume. I think I was like I don't know, like a toy soldier.
Guard? No, you
a
were
guard.
Well, no, that picture is from a different tour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you did it on Big Surprise.
It was a guard.
It was a guard. You were a guard. Yeah, we were in England. You were a guard. Full guard.
That was
And he
funny.
used to sing. He used to do his song out the front. I'm Mr. Ting. I like it very much. And you know.
Right. And he didn't know you were going to do this.
Yeah. So no, nobody knew, and only the person next to him. We were cracking up, and I went to makeup, I went to wardrobe, and everybody was into it. I mean, we had to hide it from Barry, make sure he didn't come into wardrobe, make sure he didn't walk down the hallway. Wait till if Barry went on stage left, I had to go on stage right and sneak across the back. And so, you know, and then he would turn around at the toy factory, which, by the way, was an amazing scene.
It was.
It was very colorful and automated,
beautiful.
and fantastic.
Yes.
And he looked around and he saw me. And of course, what I'm saying, I got a grin this wide. and then I think I flipped a coin at it and he starts laughing. And then, you know, he had to sing with his back to the audience because he was laughing so much.
Right.
But I mean, it was special moments like that. And I don't know if you remember, but we always used to carry an isolation box. We always used to have. I know Bob West did all the
He
voice.
did the recording.
He did the recordings.
Yes.
But we used to have a backup in case the recording went wrong.
David Franks came out on the first tour
And
with
you
us.
couldn't, you know, you couldn't have Barney and all of a sudden the voice go, because you'd be like Charlie Chaplin out there doing everybody. What the hell's going on?
It's a very uncomfortable moment.
Yeah. So we used to have this isolated sound booth.
Yes.
That David West, who probably had
David Franks.
David Franks, I'm sorry.
Right, that's
Who
right.
probably had the easiest job on the road because he would do a voice.
Because it never dropped.
It never
He
dropped.
was always on standby, you know, once or twice, and I think at the end he got so bored that we used to give him cut the end piece and let him do something at the end just to stop him being bored. But sometimes when he got a little prima donna-ish or something, he was to put him in his booth and we used to tape him in the door, and then we would find a hole. There was a ventilation system so he could breathe in there, and we'd get a smoke machine and we'd fill it full of smoke and let him out when he couldn't stop coughing, you know. So,
and there was always pranksters going on. I mean, it was fun. That was fun.
Kyle had a big one with Dwayne.
Yes.
Back and forth, and they were messing with each either for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Right.
And Kyle had stolen one of their chess pieces because Dwayne used to play chess every night with David Voss.
Right.
And so Dwayne had done something, thrown ice all over Kyle in the shower and all that. So one night the king is coming down the stairs.
Oh gosh.
And so BJ is leaned over and he opens his palm and he's got the chess piece in his hand and he says, "Who's the king now?"
That's fantastic.
But I mean,
but that makes it fun when you're out on the road.
But you know,
you
Carey,
have to keep it going and make it exciting.
You know, because
the same show.
Because when you're
every
10
night.
weeks in, you're away from home, you're away from your loved ones. You know, a lot of cases, and it can get. You know, I hate the word to use tedious, but it can get monotonous.
It can,
and especially if there's. Like it wasn't a very responsive crowd, and you're in the middle of, say, you're in the middle of 3 shows Saturday, which never happened. So these little things were great, and they were never ever in any way meant to be detrimental to the show, and it was always things that nobody could see.
One of the craziest things
I wonder if David Franks what he would think about the smoke.
He's probably smiling if he's listening to this or watching this. He's smiling.
Don't you know?
One of the craziest things I remember is when we went down to Monterrey, Mexico.
Oh gosh! Oh my goodness gracious!
And it was an outdoor venue.
Yes.
And it was 90 degrees.
Oh, at least, and 100% humidity in Monterey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what happened when the crew showed up for load-in?
Oh my
What crew?
gosh!
The local crew. Yeah, they didn't show up.
Right.
No crew.
I think the promoter got it the wrong day, or we were a day early. So we, I think the feeling, the guy goes, well, they'll be here tomorrow, which was show day, and we never loaded in show day because we needed that rehearsal in the morning, that tech, and to go over notes from the previous show.
Sure.
So all hands on deck. We loaded the show in ourselves.
Everybody, all of us,
Yeah.
we all jumped in and did it.
You can do it once and it's a blast. Twice you get away with it. Three times people will moan.
Right.
But we loaded the show in on our own.
And that's the important thing when you talk about how hard everyone worked in the family.
And that's
They just
cast
did
and
it.
crew.
Right.
Everybody did it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I remember that show very well.
Right. It was crazy. We were all down there working
I think Barney and BJ had a real hard job lifting the pieces up to the treehouse. But
that show, I don't know if you remember what happened to me on that show.
What happened to you that
do
show?
you remember my calf? What happened that?
Oh, I do.
So I was doing all the jumping, and I noticed something.
Yes.
A pinch or something was going on, and when I got out at intermission, a needle had gotten loose.
Stuck.
It was in the costume. Someone had left it in, and it got loose, and it poked me, and I had like 40 pokes. Yeah, I just walked in, and you just looked at me.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
And you're like,
to you?
we're not going to be able to get you to a doctor, and I think we just
wrapped it up and said, okay, go on.
We just wrapped it. Get back out there.
You gotta go. The show must go on, right?
I talk about that because, like, when we were in Mexico, we had to have oxygen tanks, and same in Denver. I mean, this happened every night. There was no, I'm sick or I have a cough or.
I know that you went
crew
on.
and cast went on every night. Whatever happened, we went on every night.
Oh, the rock docs saved us a lot. I mean, that was rock and roll doctors.
And
that crew, I can't even tell you how many times they helped me when I had, I had a root canal problem.
Right, I remember that.
I threw out my back a couple times, and they all would come and get someone to. I mean,
immediately.
They would immediately all help me, and did that with everyone.
It was one big family.
Everybody
it
helped
truly
each other.
was.
It was. You do great things in your life. Barney's Big Surprise was a great thing.
Yeah.
It was new, it was innovative, and it took Barney to the people, and the response was unbelievable. The rest of the Barney tours were always great, but
then it went to Musical Castle, then it went to Colorful
it would
World,
never eclipse what happened on that first tour.
Yeah.
Because that first tour was so special, coming straight out of TV, coming straight into this and doing it, and doing a fantastic production of high quality. And at the end, whether it's 1 or 2 trucks or 6 trucks, it's all about the kids.
Right.
And I was saying another thing last night is when the crew came out, and a very important part about the Barney tour was from Sloan is it had to be kid orientated, and we had to go to hospitals to see the kids.
Every city we went to,
to a hospital, and
that was my thing.
And some of the crew would go, "I'm not doing a hospital visit on my day off," and I think. I think that was not cast and crew.
Sure.
But in the end, it became one of the highlights of the week. And I can remember in one city, we had like a 12-seater bus to take what was meant to be Barney and the
Wrangler.
And the Wrangler and somebody else. And we had turned people away because it was sold out. There wasn't enough room on the bus. So, I mean, that was the part that nobody saw, which was a huge part of the tour. Huge.
And let me just say how that started.
Yes.
Because Carey, you were doing the birthday parties with me way back when.
Yes.
When we started out of the van.
Yes.
And
we've been talking about with my perm.
With your perm.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Carey.
When are we going to hear about the perm?
Okay,
Come on.
I'm going to tell you about the perm. Okay.
Let's start from the very beginning. Okay, let's start about Carey and the perm.
So Carey was auditioning, or kept calling me to audition.
Yes.
Because he had heard that I had an opening for a Barney to do Barney birthday parties. And so I said, well, okay, why don't you come here, take a look at it, look at the costume, here's a videotape. I'll call you in a week.
Because there was no Barney and Friends at this point.
No, it wasn't on TV. It was only videotapes that we had with Sandy Duncan, 3 of them.
Sloan in a van, wasn't it?
Sloan in a van. That's basically what it was.
It was.
And so, anyways, long story went on. We went on and on. We did major birthday parties. We're doing 14 a weekend, 2 crews going constantly. And one day, I asked Carey to come over to the house for something. I can't remember what it was. But I said, I need you to come over.
Where was he working?
He was working at Chili's as a cook.
After being a busboy.
I started out as a busboy.
He was a busboy.
Started out as a busboy.
That is correct.
And that's how I met him. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember which one it was, to tell you the truth. But anyway, so he was a busboy, and then he was a cook.
Yep.
And then he was a Barney.
Yep.
So one day he walks in, and he's got this perm. And I mean, we're talking tight curl perm. And it's bouffant. And I'm like, what have you done to yourself?
And I think I told you it's going to relax. They told me it's going to relax. It's going to relax.
He thought it was going to be kind of down.
Yeah, it's not
And
going
I'm
to be
like,
this tight.
well, it's a good thing you're going inside the costume because you're not going out looking like this. So that's how I became a
We
funny
haven't talked
joke.
about that perm, and then you mentioned it the other night, and I mentioned my mom. She goes, "Yeah, I remember the perm."
The perm. The bad
I
perm.
hear there's talk of the perm making some pictures in further episodes.
Oh, I gotta go find it.
Everybody should stay tuned, I think.
Oh, yeah,
well,
I've
you
got to
know
go
Sloan
find the
will-
pictures
Sloan
of the
will
perm.
find-
I'll find
that.
But what I was going to was that I had a friend of mine that had 2 of her children at Children's Medical Center, and they were sick, like very sick. And I asked, I think it was Cheryl or Kathy or one of them, I said, do you mind if I take Barney to the Children's Hospital? And they were like, well, are you sure you want to do that? You know? And I'm like, oh, I'm sure. I'm so sure I want to do this. And the response that I had was incredible because I took Carey with me. I said, Carey, come on, we're going to go to the Children's Hospital and this is how we're going to do it. And we kind of learned together.
Yeah.
And God love him. I got to the neonatal ICU and I couldn't do it because my children were young.
Right.
They were infant and 2 years old. And it broke my heart. And Carey looked at me and he said, I've got this. So I walked on the outside. He walked down through the inside. And he came out of there and I went, wow, you just sold me on You Are My Barney. You are Barney. It was that day at the hospital.
Well, I learned that, I talk about the responsibility, and that's
Yes.
obviously the day that I realized that you weren't an actor, you weren't Carey.
No.
When you were there, you were Barney. This was their
Right.
friend. This is who they loved, and he was here. And they didn't
And he
want
always put a
sadness,
smile
they
on
didn't
their
want
face.
anything. They wanted their friend.
Right.
And obviously the emotion of it was just I've never felt a feeling like that in my life to have this.
And
What
then we
should be a sad moment is not sad.
No, it's not. It's the most. It's the best feeling you can have walking out of a hospital, knowing that for 5-10 seconds that child was able to smile. That parent was able to smile. So then that's when we started doing the children's hospital tour, the 1 light bulb show, 2 light bulb shows, 3 light bulb shows. And then when we started with the tour, it was like, we will go to a children's hospital in every single city.
And on tour, the crazy thing about kids is their parents, how they would, if there was a Barney meet and greet, how they would push and shove to get their kids to the front.
Yes.
And also famous parents.
Yes.
Very,
a lot.
Yes.
I brought my kid to see Barney. I'm going to get to the front.
Yes.
And I remember in Radio City that John Bon Jovi came with his kid to see that. So I showed him around, and before he could have his picture taken with his kid on the aluminum tree house, somebody from Barney goes, "I'm sorry, sir, but you have to sign this press release," which I thought was hysterical. That everybody has to sign a press release to film John Bon Jovi, and we ask him for a press release to be with Barney. That remained to me forever. So.
Well, that was incredible. I mean, I remember Forrest Whitaker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there were so many. You can't even name them all.
It was just celebrity after celebrity after celebrity.
Right.
But they were parents.
Parents, that's right.
They just became parents. It was like, what was it mean to Forrest? Well, he was a parent.
He was a parent, yeah.
And he lit up when he saw his child get a hug and was so happy.
And they would do anything for you because you were making their child so
I mean, if you were a star, you would be reluctant about having your picture taken in public.
Correct.
But, look, there's Barney and Larry Mullen from U2.
There you go.
And I'll never forget that because they said, Carey, there's a meet and greet. Can you get, this was Radio City.
Right.
And they didn't tell me who it was, which obviously wasn't a big deal. And you go, oh my gosh. And he's a parent.
Yep. And
he's just a parent.
And his kids wanted to see Barney, and he was, like you say, being a parent.
Yes.
And it is amazing, but when we played New York and LA, I mean, the celebrity list was unbelievable. And
it was crazy.
Sloan always made them buy a ticket. There was no freebies.
No, listen to you.
There was a bit.
Listen to you.
But I remember having to stay on to do meet and greets around the castle at the end of the show.
Right.
Because the demand was there.
It was so big.
Yeah.
It was so big.
But the whole tour, I don't think we ever turned anybody away. I mean, anybody that we felt was needed, anybody that was special, everybody made that special entrance. And even, if we had to take a smoke machine down to do it, or somebody stay behind and play music, nobody minded.
Right. And this tour didn't just play the U.S.
I know, it went global. All three of them went global. So we would do 2 years in the States and Canada and Mexico.
Yes.
And then 1 year international, where we would go over to UK, Ireland, sometimes down to Australia, New Zealand.
And Scotland. Remember Scotland?
Yeah, we played all over.
And big surprise, it was amazing. I remember because I think it was Scotland that you dropped us off in. And we
dropped you off. I just dropped you off.
No, but when I say that, like, I got to go to Scotland. I mean, that's
Aberdeen.
amazing.
I think it was Aberdeen.
But we just took buses in all these different ways that we traveled through.
Did we do some training there as well?
Yeah, we did some training.
Because it's tough.
I remember.
Right?
That's what was so incredible. I mean, I'm 27 years old on this incredible
experience.
I
mean, it was a journey for sure.
Yeah, I think that because some of the cast were fresh out of America, I mean, some of them were in Canada for the first time, some Mexico the first time, and Europe. They had no idea what to expect.
Well, some in Kentucky for the first time. I mean, there's people that had
never traveled.
I forget, but we wound one cast member up, telling them that they needed a visa to get into Scotland, and had them totally freaked out.
Oh my gosh!
When you crossed the English-Scottish border, you needed a visa. And if you haven't got a visa, you might not be able to get in.
Right.
And I think it was such a big wind-up that everybody else was in it. We just picked on one person, and everybody was in it.
Freak them out. That was
I think he nearly died of, like, I'm not going to make it. What am I going to do? And Sloan goes, I hope everybody makes it to Scotland. and this kid's and it was an hour out when he's going, what do I do? And we go, you'll probably have to get off the bus and while we cross the border and go around the hedge and meet us on the other side. So he was, I can't remember, was quite prepared to go out and do it. But in the end,
we all had so much fun.
Everybody couldn't stop laughing. I had to tell them.
Well, and some of the venues that we played, I think, is so important.
So unique.
That I get to say that I performed at Radio City Music Hall 3 times.
Right.
We did the Sky Dome in Toronto.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
I mean, how unbelievable is that on a kid's show?
It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
And amazing,
Well, we got sometimes up to 8, 9, 10,000 people at a show. We never wanted to go that big,
right?
Because we wanted to keep it intimate to where it was 5,000 approximately.
Yes.
But the demand was so there that I'd call Jake. Okay, what do we do?
You never
move
turn
the curtains,
anybody away.
do this. What do we do, Jake? Move something and make more seats.
Because I remember Mexico City.
Oh, it was insane.
It was massive.
It was massive. We'd have 10 to 11,000 at each show there.
That was
nuts.
in the theater, the Auditorio Nacional. I believe which was seated like 9,000.
I mean, it was massive.
And we played a lot of dates there.
I think we were there for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just never stopped.
I think we did like 14 shows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did a lot of shows, didn't
Puerto
we?
Rico. We went down to Puerto Rico.
was amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
everybody loved going to Puerto Rico.
was amazing.
Did we not play, a Latino pro show in LA or something? Miami, yeah.
Miami.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that was hilarious.
I learned my lesson.
Okay, so he was supposed to be number one because, he's always been my number one Barney, right? On everything that I've done with all these live events.
Yeah.
Well, somehow or another, somebody got hurt.
Well, so that night, Josh was going to be number 1. And I was going to be number 2.
And then you fell or something. You hurt your
Josh
ankle.
fell.
Oh, Josh. Okay,
Going
one of the
to-
two.
Just like blame Josh because he's not here.
Yeah, we're blaming on
He's-
Josh.
he's
Where
told
are
the
you,
story.
Josh?
Because this is on both of us. So going to the beach, he hurt his ankle.
Oh, it was Josh that did it. Yes.
But I had obviously I don't speak Spanish, so I had only learned the script for number 2. I hadn't looked at
Shame on you.
the script for number 1, and all of a sudden Josh calls me and goes, "Did you're on tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, perfect." And so I'm out at the beach with my headphones on, and of course that show was fast. Yeah, I mean it was.
I mean that mouth was just buzzing
It was fast.
I was thinking, how's he gonna do this?
And it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
And I also remember, I don't know if you remember, but we did a talk show down in Mexico City.
Telemundo.
Yes.
Yes.
Why? Once again, I don't speak or understand.
We had no idea what they were asking.
So they came to me and I said, well, give me 5 words that I like. Love, hug, kiss.
Yeah.
And I'm listening. I'm
you.
just dancing around and moving the mouth, and I'm listening for those 5 words. And if I hear kiss, I blow a kiss, or hug, and I hug someone.
Yeah.
Had absolutely no clue what I was doing. They were like, that was brilliant. I'm like, oh, thank God.
I did it.
Yes.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
Which
Good
I loved.
times.
My gosh. But I loved all the challenges. We all dealt with so many
We always did.
so many different challenges throughout that experience.
The thing that I loved the most probably about the whole deal was how much a purple dinosaur could bring everybody together.
Yes.
I mean, rock and roll,
Yes.
family entertainment, adults, children. I mean, we had to, the difference with our role, Jake, was with the live, was we had to entertain the adults as well as the children, where the television was mainly, focused on the child. But we had to make sure we took everything that was done in the studio and apply it to the live stage shows, but then enhance it a little bit more to make it appealing for everybody, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever. That's hiring the Joe Phillips of the world at the beginning, I mean, I had met him at Universal when we were building A Day in the Park with Barney down there. And I said, oh my gosh, and listening to all of his Braveheart stuff and everything that he had done, I'm like, you need to do the live stage shows because it's just going to raise it up a notch and do everything. Plus, I love saxophone. He's big on the sax.
I know you do.
I know. I love my sax. So anyways, just hiring the people like that, but keeping with the simplicity of the show. So, and at the end of the day, it was all about how much confetti can one spray on one.
Never enough. Sloan, how was it? More confetti. You'd double it. More confetti. What's this? That's your cleanup bill for the confetti. I don't want that much confetti, but there's always more confetti.
More confetti.
I think when we did the video shoot, is we had the confetti cannons and everything, but we also put people in the roof to put confetti out the roof so we could get what we would call the money shot with the camera looking through the confetti.
Right.
Never enough money or streamers for Sloan.
No.
Never.
Well, and then
it was always a party.
You also had inflatables.
Yes, I did. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I mean, that's what just made...
Will the cake go up tonight?
Will the lights come on in the cake? Will the streamers shoot out of the cake? I mean, we always had inflated. We always had something going on all the time.
And will Barney emerge with a black cape?
Yeah.
Yes, I was telling the story of...
that was funny.
Yeah, on Musical Castle.
Yeah.
That you had a castle that would roll out at the opening.
Yeah.
So it would have the little Barney, and then you would see the castle come out, and Barney would shoot out of that castle. And so there'd be a black curtain over that castle. And so right before it would go out, they would take the black curtain off. And one night the black curtain didn't come off, and I shot through that thing, and I'm out there jumping up and down, and I can hear, come over here, come over here.
It was a bit like Zorro, wasn't it?
Yes, and there's a wrangler there that just whips that off.
Always somebody there watching out for you, though, right?
Well,
Always.
there was more than
Always.
one.
Yeah.
Shauna came jumping out of the arena and was running backstage.
Oh, that's funny.
But that's that difference between the TV show and the live is that there's no stop, there's no redo. It just keeps going.
Right.
We laugh about it
when
later.
You hit start button, you don't go until the end button comes.
That's it.
I think we did a pretty good job at making sure that it was good and the entertainment value was always high.
The entertainment value was high, and that tour just increased the popularity of Barney another fold, and
then we had so much fun when all the television studio guys would come out and do the home video shoot with us out there, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. I mean, they didn't get to see that instant gratification as live does, right?
And Jeff talked about that when he was here, Jeff Ayers' Baby Bop TV show, and he talked about, Carey was getting to see all of this. We weren't seeing this. We never got to see this, and that, to me, the greatest gift I was ever given was to get to see that feedback, to go out there and have every audience member Fly Like an Airplane, or sing I Love You, or do Mr. Knickerbocker every single night. Yeah.
I mean,
And
the
amazing part,
raindrops.
Mr. Knickerbocker, the movements was pretty hard for adults, but you see 2-year-olds get it perfect.
Yeah.
It was pretty stunning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the live show, the other thing which we had to get venues to go to is to make a stroller park.
Right.
Right.
Because they
Stroller
never,
parking.
Yes.
so it was everybody showed up in a stroller. So, instead of checking your coat and your handbag in the thing, you had to get a ticket for a stroller.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, when they're rushing to get home, fighting over who'd get their stroller out of the way.
The fastest on the way out.
We got to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, things that you don't see in a typical.
But at the end of the show, every time when you would sing the I Love You song,
Yeah, I think we've got a little bit of it there.
we ought to show that.
This is from Musical Castle.
Musical Castle. Okay, right. Oh, that was so much fun. So you'd hear the song, and everybody's loving on each other. And the biggest thing was watching the parents and the children together.
Yeah,
Look at that.
It's absolutely so incredible.
I mean, they're all singing, they're all kissing, they're hugging on each other. I mean, that's what it's
and
all
I'm
about
doing
right
everything
there.
I can not to
And
cry.
then look at that bell kick, would ya?
Yeah.
Woo, Carey. Looking good, looking good. That was fun. See,
Yeah.
that makes it all.
That's the most unbelievable. For me, my experience every night to be doing I Love You, and I mean, you can just feel the love in that room.
People would say, "Aren't you
You're talking-
tired of hearing that
No.
song?" I'm like,
The only-
never.
the only
You
thing-
never
No.
get tired of that
The only
song.
thing that could follow I Love You was the run out of the theater by all the cast and crew at the end of the show. I love you. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, there we go.
It's time to go because it's late because it's nearly 8:30.
Yeah, which was the greatest thing
I know.
to be on a job that, during the week we were done at
It
8:30.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a good day for you would be 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8:30, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But they had to rest. I
Yeah.
mean, because that was so strenuous on their bodies. And I mean, the first time that Carey went out, he lost 30 pounds in 3 months. And I
Yeah.
remember
And
calling
that's
his
only
mom.
because he got his hair cut.
Well, yeah, he did get the perm cut off. We did make sure that was going to happen.
Yeah, the perm wasn't going to make the road.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
No, that would have never worked.
But yeah, Sloan called my mom.
I had to call his mom and warn her. I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, we're feeding him, we're doing everything we can, but you've got to put carbs in that boy's body while he's home for the week.
And when you told me that, I wish I could have been a Barney then. 'Cause
I know,
needed
right?
to lose 30 pounds.
Seriously, we could have all done that.
Well, I told a story the other. I was telling someone the other day about when I ran the marathon.
Right.
If you remember the famous Glen marathon.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I ran a marathon after UK, and I only trained off of the show.
Barney.
Yeah, I didn't actually do any running.
You didn't have to.
Yeah, I was doing that show every night, and Glenn was on the road. He was like, "You need to run with me," and I'm like, "No, I'm
good.
I'm good.
I've got
I'm good."
this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, the Barney, there needs to be a training
That'd be a good one.
out of that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was so physical. It
Right.
was so physical.
Very physical because you put everything you could into that performance, which is all we as producers could ever ask for. And it was the heart and soul of you and Josh and all my other
Absolutely.
Barneys, Patrick and Andrew. I mean,
Antoine,
all of them.
absolutely.
Everybody. But
Well,
without
we all
them.
got it and we saw it. When we saw the kids, we got it. We saw what was going on. And so
Yeah.
we understood to do that.
I mean, at the end of the day, Barney was a phenomenon. Whether you loved Barney or
Right.
whether you didn't like Barney, Barney was a phenomenon.
Well-
It was. I remember being in Phoenix. I was doing a little bit of work for Disney,
Okay.
and I invited all the Disney people because Barney was in town. I had 2 family shows in town at the
Right.
same day. I was Kenneth Feld that day, and the Disney guy comes. I can't believe that people, a purple dinosaur, can make it to the top, And I goes, well, I guess 50 years ago, you didn't believe a mouse with big ears would be this popular, did you? And
It's crazy.
and it was a phenomenon. And something that, when people ask me, you did Barney, I'm proud to have done Barney. I'm proud to have been associated with that and what it brought, to the kids. It's one of the highlights of my career. I mean, and several highs, but you remember all, what happened. You remember the camaraderie. You remember all of that, and at the end of the tour, I think there's people in tears because they're leaving.
Right.
And normally, you're kind of glad to get away
Right.
from, but it was phenomenal. It was
Did you have a favorite moment from all the year, everything you've done? Is there something that you remember that?
on Barney.
Yes.
Definitely not the treehouse when I saw it, I can tell you that. No, I think there's so many good moments. I mean, like you said, the end of the night watching the kids was always a huge moment. Used to either be out in a crowd and look around and see all the smiling faces and go, I'm a part of this, which was
Right.
really gratifying. I mean, just the quality of the show was very gratifying. And I think, and a moment when I went on stage and surprised Barry Pearl would be a moment.
Right.
And filling up David Franks' booth with smoke was up there as a highlight. But no, there were
many.
It was all good. But the end of the day, the moments of the kids. The kids is what made us, what made Barney, and will always make Barney, and gave us the chance to tell great stories and about how it came together and what
Right.
happened out there.
What about you, Sloan?
Oh my gosh, I can't ever.
There's
find
a
But is
one.
there something that doesn't have to be one? It could be.
Oh my gosh, so many years of it.
Yeah.
My favorite part, probably, of doing all live stage show productions would have to be the entrance of how Barney goes from a plush to a big purple dinosaur, which was different in every stage show, and you never knew what was going to happen. And then, of course, the confetti at the end, the big kiss from Barney and the kids, and they're all just looking up and all the confetti falling down and just the love in the room. You can't top that. You can never top that.
No.
Nobody's been able to top that yet, I don't think.
And also when you go out and you get all the skeptics, all the people
Right.
who come, I've got to take, mostly male, I would think.
Yeah.
I've got to take my kid to see Barney.
Right.
And then come out with a smile on their face because they've seen their kids happy, but they've also seen value for money
Yeah.
in the production.
Right.
Value for money.
Such a good
Parents
point.
smiling and being happy as they walk out make me so happy.
Well, I mean, how can you beat having your child at the end of I Love You hug a parent,
Right.
and give them a kiss and say I love you, mom or dad, or
That's it.
it's
and
incredible.
the
That was
adult
it.
participation, like trying to do the Mr. Knickerbocker song and not look stupid in front of their kids because
Right.
they got no idea to do it, but they would try and get it sing and laugh, and a lot of grandparents there, wasn't there, if I remember correctly?
Absolutely.
A lot of grandparents like to bring their grandkids to Barney,
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing.
and the grandparents couldn't always had to have the best seat for their kids, so
Of course.
so we were never sure of getting the premium seats, so because they had to be up front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't even tell you what it's been to have the two of you here.
It's been fantastic, hasn't it?
It's been amazing.
Fun times.
You've got to come back. There's
Yeah.
too many. We've just touched
Just
few
a little
stories.
bit here and there. Well, Jake and I could have never done it without my partner right here.
Well,
He and I formed a friendship very
Yeah.
quick.
it's been, but like you say, there's friendships out there that have lasted 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't keep in touch with them as much as you do, but it's an amazing testament to the longevity that here 25 years, 30 years later,
Right.
you can be doing these podcasts, which I believe, and with all the tweets and everything you get and the Instagram is a huge success, and not by kids, by adults,
Right.
who were kids at that time.
Oh, and they talk about Big Surprise and Musical Castle
Yeah.
and how much it meant to them.
Yeah.
Think about it. That was their first rock show.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now you're getting all the millennials,
The
right?
millennials, which is just incredible.
I know, isn't that fun?
And of course now they're going to have kids. It's just
Yeah,
amazing how it just
yeah.
keeps going and going and going.
Maybe there'll be a Barney resurgence.
I think people would love him as much today as they did.
Without a doubt. Would I do it all over again? Without hesitation.
Yeah.
You have to stop selling houses, though.
I know, right?
We'd have to find a new Barney. Maybe Carey can be the Barney coach with the
There you go.
with the titanium
With
leg
this
and everything.
titanium
Now
leg.
it's
I love
amazing.
it. I love it.
He falls off a ladder,
Yeah.
and all them years of climbing up the steps to the tree house, he never fell down
Never
once.
fell. And now you did this.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
goodness
wonder
gracious.
I'm just curious. I wonder what happened to the treehouse.
Oh my goodness. We put it in storage.
I bet
you
it's
know?
still sitting there.
Because you just never know when you need a steel treehouse. It's never going anywhere.
The steel treehouse
Yeah.
went for recycling to the scrapyard. You have the aluminum.
Oh, do we have the aluminum one?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, did you get rid of that? The steel?
Yeah, it was
Imagine
like a
that.
bad it's like a bad marriage. It had to go, you know.
It had to go. If we're going to go any further, it had to go.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Thank
it's
you,
just
Carey.
been such a pleasure. You've got to come back soon.
Yes, I
So
will.
we can tell
I'd love
these stories.
to.
And once again, and Jake, it's just been incredible seeing you.
Good seeing
And
you too.
Please stop by.
My pleasure. Anytime you want.
All right.
And you can check us out, purpletails.com, purpletailspodcast.com.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Carey.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.